Word spread through the palace like wildfire. The dead queen walks again. Morgana strode through the corridors of her former home with Elias beside her. Everything was familiar yet wrong. The walls that once displayed art now held weapons. The halls that echoed with music now rang with the march of soldiers' boots. They reached the throne room doors. 2 massive guards stood watch, but they stepped aside without a word. Even Kale's most loyal soldiers couldn't raise a weapon against their true queen. Morgana pushed open the doors. The throne room looked exactly as she remembered from the night of her betrayal. Except now, Kale sat on her throne. He wore a crown of twisted black metal and robes that seemed to absorb light. He looked older, harder. The gentle scholar she had loved was completely gone. But when he saw her, his expression cracked. Shock, fear, and something that might have been relief. "Morgana," he breathed, standing from the throne. "You're alive." "Disappointed?" she asked, her voice echoing through the chamber. Dozens of courtiers and guards filled the room. They whispered and gasped, but no one moved. The air crackled with tension and magic. "I thought I killed you," Kale said, and there was genuine confusion in his voice. "The poison, the fall. No one could have survived that." "The old me didn't survive," Morgana said, walking slowly toward the throne. Elias stayed close but slightly behind, his presence a steady warmth at her back. "You succeeded in killing Queen Morgana, but I came back as something else. Someone new." Kale's eyes shifted to Elias. "And who is this? Your new pet human?" "Watch your tongue." Morgana's voice dropped to a dangerous level. Purple light flickered around her hands. "He is the man I love. He is the reason I'm here to give you a choice instead of just ending you." Kale laughed, but it was bitter and broken. "Love? You've been gone for months and you return talking about love? You were incapable of love, Morgana." The fall of the Shadow Queen. The night of betrayal. The crystal tower stood tall against the midnight sky, its walls glowing with purple light. Tonight was supposed to be Queen Morgana's greatest celebration. For 300 years, she had ruled the Shadow Realm with absolute power. Her armies had just won the War of the Fallen Stars, and her kingdom stretched across 7 dimensions. Inside the grand hall, thousands of candles floated in the air. Music filled every corner. Nobles from across the realm wore their finest clothes, drinking wine that sparkled like liquid starlight. They bowed as Morgana passed, their eyes filled with fear and respect. But Morgana felt nothing. She sat on her throne of black crystal, watching the celebration with empty eyes. The crown on her head felt heavier with each passing year. Victory after victory had brought her no joy. Power had become a cage made of shadows and silence. "My queen," a familiar voice spoke beside her. Kale, her most trusted advisor, stood at her side. He had been with her for over a century. His dark hair fell across his shoulders, and his green eyes had once made her heart race. Long ago, before she became too powerful to love, they had shared something beautiful. But that was another life, another version of herself. "The celebration bores you," Kale said softly. It was not a question. He knew her better than anyone. "All things bore me now," Morgana replied, her voice like winter wind. 300 years, Kale. I have conquered everything. I have lived so long that I can barely remember who I was before the crown." Kale handed her a golden cup filled with deep red wine. "Perhaps you need to rest, my queen. Even immortals grow weary." Morgana took the cup. For a moment, something flickered in Kale's eyes. Something that might have been sadness or regret or something darker. But she was too tired to notice. She drank deeply. The wine tasted strange, bitter, wrong. "Kale," she whispered as fire began to burn through her veins. "What have you done?" He caught her as she fell from the throne. The hall erupted in screams and chaos. Guards rushed forward, but Kale raised his hand. Dark magic exploded from his palm, throwing everyone back against the walls. "I'm sorry, Morgana," he said, his voice breaking, "but you've become the very darkness we once fought against." You don't see it, but I do. Your power is consuming everything. Soon you'll destroy not just your enemies, but your own people. The realm itself. Morgana tried to speak, but her tongue felt thick. Her powers, usually as natural as breathing, refused to answer her call. The poison was draining everything from her. I loved you once, Kale continued, tears streaming down his face. But the woman I loved disappeared centuries ago. You've become a monster wearing her face. This is the only way to save the realm from you. He carried her to the tower window. Below, the ground was impossibly far away. Storm clouds gathered, lightning splitting the sky. Maybe in death, you'll finally find the peace you've been searching for, Kale whispered. Then he let her go. Morgana fell through the darkness, watching the tower disappear above her. The poison worked through her system, stripping away her immortality, her powers, everything that made her a queen. She felt herself becoming mortal with every passing second. She hit the ground and the world went black. Awakening on strange shores, the sound of waves woke her. Soft, rhythmic, peaceful. Morgana opened her eyes to see a wooden ceiling. Sunlight streamed through a small window, and she could smell salt in the air. She was lying in a simple bed with clean white sheets. Her body ached in ways she had never felt before. Real human pain. She sat up slowly. The room was small but comfortable. There was a chair by the window, a table with a pitcher of water, and walls decorated with strange objects she didn't recognize. Shells, dried flowers, pictures of the sea. Where was she? What had happened? She tried to remember, but her mind was full of fog. There were images. A tower, a fall, a man's face filled with tears. But it all felt distant, like a dream that was fading with the morning light. The door opened, and a man entered. He was tall, with sun-bronzed skin and kind brown eyes. His hair was the color of sand, and he wore simple clothes. A fisherman, perhaps, or a sailor. "You're awake," he said, relief flooding his face. "Thank the stars. I was worried you might never open your eyes." Morgana stared at him. "Who are you? Where am I?" "My name is Elias," he said gently. "You're in my lighthouse, in the village of Salt Haven. I found you on the beach 3 days ago, unconscious and barely breathing. You're safe here." "Safe?" She repeated the word like it was foreign. I can't remember." Elias sat down in the chair by her bed. "Don't force it. The healer said you hit your head pretty hard. Your memories might come back slowly. Do you remember your name?" She searched her mind. There was something, a name that felt right. "Mora," she said, though she didn't know why. "I think my name is Mora."
Mora, Elias smiled.
"That's a beautiful name. Well, Mora, you're welcome to stay here as long as you need. At least until you remember where you came from." Over the following days, Mora began to explore her new world. The lighthouse stood on a cliff overlooking the endless ocean. The village below was small and simple. People fished, farmed, and lived quiet lives. No one bowed to anyone. No one wore crowns. Elias was patient with her. He taught her simple things that felt strangely new. How to brew tea. How to mend clothes. How to gut a fish. She was terrible at all of it, but he never laughed at her mistakes. He just smiled and showed her again. "Where did you come from?" she asked him one evening. They sat on the rocks outside the lighthouse, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Here, mostly," Elias said. "My father was the lighthouse keeper before me. He taught me to read the sea, to understand the storms. When he died, I took his place. It's a simple life, but it's mine." "Don't you want more?" Mora asked. "Power? Wealth? Something beyond this small place?" Elias looked at her with those kind brown eyes. "I have everything I need. The sea, the sky, good people in the village. What more could a man want?" His words touched something deep inside her, something she couldn't explain. For reasons she didn't understand, tears began to fall down her cheeks.
"Mora,"
Elias said, concerned. "What's wrong?" "I don't know," she whispered. I just feel like I've been searching for something my whole life, and you just described it so simply, like it's the easiest thing in the world. Elias moved closer and gently wiped her tears. Maybe that's because it is simple. We just forget that sometimes. Learning to be human. Weeks passed, and Mora began to settle into her new life. She helped Elias maintain the lighthouse, keeping the great lamp burning through the night. She learned to bake bread with the village baker, a cheerful woman named Martha who told endless stories about her 17 grandchildren. She discovered she loved books. Elias had a small collection, and she read them all. Stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Tales of love and loss, courage and hope. Each story made her feel things she couldn't name. Joy, sadness, wonder. But more than anything, she found herself watching Elias. The way he moved with quiet confidence. The way he smiled at children in the village. The way he spoke to the sea like it was an old friend. There was something about him that made her feel safe, protected, seen. One night, a terrible storm hit the coast. Wind howled around the lighthouse like a living thing. Rain lashed against the windows. The sea below churned with violent waves. Mora stood at the window watching the chaos. And suddenly, she remembered. A throne room. Dark magic. A man's face. Betrayal. No! She gasped, stumbling backward. Images flooded her mind. A crown. A tower. Power beyond imagining. And then the fall. The terrible, endless fall.
Mora.
Elias caught her as she collapsed. What's happening? I remember, she whispered, trembling. I remember something. Something terrible. Elias, what if I'm not who you think I am? What if I'm dangerous? He held her close, his arms strong and steady. I don't care who you were. I only care who you are now. And right now, you're a woman who needs to know she's not alone. But you don't understand, she said, tears streaming down her face. The things I'm remembering, the power, the darkness. Then tell me, Elias said softly. Whatever you remember, whatever you're afraid of, tell me. Let me help you carry it. So she told him about the fragments she could remember, the throne, the wars, the loneliness that had consumed her like poison, the betrayal by someone she had trusted, the fall that should have killed her. Elias listened to it all without judgment. When she finished, he simply held her tighter. Maybe whoever you were before doesn't matter, he said. Maybe you were given a chance to start over, to be someone new, someone free. But what if that person comes back? Mora asked, her voice small and afraid. What if the queen returns and destroys everything? Elias pulled back and looked into her eyes. Then I'll remind her of all the reasons to stay human. I'll remind her of sunsets and fresh bread and the sound of the sea. I'll remind her that the simplest things are often the most powerful. In that moment, something shifted inside Mora. The fear didn't disappear, but it became smaller. Less important than the feeling growing in her chest every time she looked at this man. She didn't know the word for it yet. She had been a queen of darkness for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like. But slowly, carefully, like a flower opening to the sun, Mora was learning to love. The promise. Summer arrived, bringing long golden days and warm gentle nights. Mora's memories remained fragmented, like pieces of a broken mirror. She could see glimpses of her past, but the full picture stayed hidden. And she found she didn't mind. Life in the lighthouse with Elias had become everything. They worked together during the day, maintaining the lamp, repairing the building, helping the villagers. In the evenings, they would sit on the rocks and talk for hours. He told her stories of his childhood, of storms survived and ships saved. She told him her dreams, both the beautiful ones and the nightmares of falling through endless darkness. One evening, as they watched the sun sink into the ocean, Elias took her hand. Mora, he said, his voice nervous. I need to tell you something. These past months with you, they've been the happiest of my life. I know you're still finding yourself. I know you don't remember everything about who you were. But I know who you are now. And I love you. Mora felt her heart stop. Love. That was the word she had been searching for. The feeling that made her chest ache and her soul feel complete for the first time in centuries. "I love you too," she whispered, and saying the words felt like breaking a curse she hadn't known she was under. Elias smiled, that beautiful, gentle smile that had saved her. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But she didn't want to. She wanted this. She wanted him. She wanted this simple, perfect, human love. Their lips met softly. The kiss was nothing like the grand, dramatic gestures she vaguely remembered from her past. It was gentle, sweet, real, and it made her feel more powerful than any magic ever had. When they pulled apart, Mora was crying again. But this time they were tears of joy. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" Elias asked, brushing away her tears. "For finding me. For teaching me how to be human. For loving me when I didn't even know how to love myself. Always," Elias promised. "Whatever comes, whatever you remember, whatever happens next, I'll always be here." It was a promise he would have to keep sooner than either of them knew. Because far away, in the Shadow Realm, the Council had made a discovery. Their queen was not dead, and they were coming to bring her home. The truth unveiled. The strangers in black. 3 weeks after Elias's confession of love, everything changed. Mora woke one morning to find the village unusually quiet. The normal sounds of fishermen preparing their boats and children playing in the streets were gone. An unnatural silence hung in the air like fog. She walked downstairs to find Elias standing at the lighthouse door, his body tense. He was staring at something in the village below. "What's wrong?" Mora asked, moving to stand beside him. "Strangers," Elias said quietly. "They arrived before dawn. 5 of them, all dressed in black robes. They're asking questions about a woman who washed up on shore months ago." Mora's blood turned cold. Deep in her bones, she knew. They had come for her. "We need to hide you," Elias said, turning to her with urgent eyes. "Now. There's a cave system beneath the lighthouse. My father showed me when I was a boy. You'll be safe there until—"
"No," Mora interrupted.
Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of running from pieces of myself. If they've come for me, then let them come." "Mora, you don't know what they want." "Yes, I do," she said softly. "They want their queen back." Before Elias could respond, there was a knock at the lighthouse door. Not a normal knock. This one resonated with power, making the walls tremble and the windows rattle. Elias moved to stand in front of Mora protectively, but she gently pushed past him. She opened the door. 5 figures stood outside, dressed in flowing black robes embroidered with silver symbols that seemed to move and shift. Their faces were partially hidden by hoods, but Mora could see their eyes. Ancient eyes. Eyes that had seen centuries pass. The tallest figure stepped forward and pulled back her hood. She was a woman with silver hair and sharp features. Her eyes were the color of midnight. "Your Majesty," the woman said, dropping to one knee. The others followed. "We have searched for you across 10 kingdoms. The Shadow Realm mourns your loss. We have come to bring you home." Mora felt the world tilt. Hearing someone call her "Your Majesty" unlocked something in her mind. Memories came flooding back with painful clarity. She remembered the throne room, the weight of the crown, the endless wars and political games. She remembered Kale's face as he poisoned her. She remembered being Queen Morgana, ruler of shadows, commander of armies, immortal and untouchable. And she remembered how utterly alone she had been. "No," Mora whispered, clutching the doorframe for support. "No, I'm not her anymore. I'm not that person." The silver-haired woman stood, confusion crossing her face. "Your Majesty, you are Queen Morgana of the Shadow Realm. You have ruled for 3 centuries. Your people need you." "My people?"
Mora laughed bitterly.
"My people feared me. I had subjects, not people. I had power, not love. That queen is dead. She died when she fell from that tower. But you survived." Another council member spoke, a man with a scar across his cheek. "The realm needs its queen. Without you, chaos spreads. Kale has taken your throne, and he rules with cruelty.
Village burn.
Families are torn apart. Your kingdom is suffering. The words hit Mora like physical blows. Kale, the man who betrayed her, the man she had once loved. He was destroying everything. Tell me everything, she demanded, her voice taking on an edge of command that surprised even her. The weight of truth. The council members came inside. They spread a magical map across Elias's simple wooden table. The map showed the Shadow Realm in stunning detail, with cities marked in glowing symbols. After your fall, Kale declared you dead, the silver-haired woman explained. Her name was Seraphine, and she had served on the council for 200 years. He claimed a rival kingdom assassinated you. He used your death to start another war. He's conquering territories, enslaving populations, and draining magical resources without mercy. He told us he killed you to save the realm, Mora said quietly. He said I was becoming a monster. Seraphine's eyes flashed with anger.
Kale lit.
Yes, your majesty, you had become distant, cold. But you never hurt your own people. You protected them. Kale wants power for its own sake. He's destroying what took centuries to build. Mora studied the map. She could see the damage. Entire regions marked in red, indicating destruction. Cities that had thrived under her rule were now occupied territories. Her heart ached for the suffering. Why didn't the council stop him? Elias asked. He had been silent until now, watching everything with careful eyes. We tried, another council member said, a young woman with fierce eyes. But Kale has claimed your powers, your majesty. When you fell, your magic didn't die. Scattered. Kale has been collecting it, absorbing it piece by piece. He grows stronger every day. Then give me back my memories, Mora said. All of them. If I'm to face him, I need to remember everything I was. Your Majesty, Seraphine said carefully, restoring your full memories comes with risks. You will remember not just your power, but your pain, your loneliness, the darkness that consumed you, the woman you've become here. She may disappear. Mora looked at Elias. He stood apart from the group, his face unreadable. But she could see the fear in his eyes. Fear of losing her. Fear of the queen she might become. I have to do this, she told him. Those people are suffering because of me. Because I ran away instead of facing my problems. You didn't run, Elias said firmly. You were thrown from a tower and left to die. There's a difference. But I have a chance to make it right now, Mora said. She crossed to him and took his hands. I need to remember who I was so I can choose who I want to be. Does that make sense? Elias pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Promise me something. Promise me that no matter what you remember, you won't forget this. These months we've had.
I promise, Mora whispered.
I could live 1,000 years and never forget you. They held each other for a long moment. Then Mora turned back to the council. Do it, she commanded. Restore my memories. All of them. The flood of memories. The ritual took place at midnight in a clearing near the lighthouse. The council drew symbols in the earth with silver powder. They placed crystals at 5 points around Mora, forming a star pattern. Elias insisted on staying close, though the council warned him it might be dangerous. He stood just outside the circle, his presence a steady anchor. Seraphine began to chant in an ancient language. The other council members joined her, their voices weaving together like threads of a tapestry. The crystals began to glow, pulsing with purple light. Mora felt the magic wash over her like a wave. First it was gentle. Memories returned in soft fragments. Her childhood before the crown, playing in gardens with her sister, learning magic from her mother. Simple, happy moments. Then the wave became a flood. She remembered her coronation at age 23. Her parents had died in a plague, and she was too young, too unprepared. But she had no choice. She remembered the First War, an uprising in the eastern provinces. She had tried negotiation, diplomacy, peace. But they saw her youth as weakness. They attacked, and she was forced to respond. She remembered the first time she killed someone with magic. How it had made her sick for weeks. She remembered Kale. Meeting him in the palace library. He was a scholar then, brilliant and kind. How they would stay up all night talking about philosophy and magic. How she fell in love with him slowly, carefully. How he made her feel human when the crown tried to make her a statue. She remembered their first kiss under the stars. His proposal. Their secret wedding in the palace garden. How he promised to stand beside her always. But she also remembered how things changed. How the wars kept coming. How she had to make impossible choices. How every decision meant someone would suffer. How she became harder, colder, more ruthless because mercy was seen as weakness. She remembered watching Kale pull away from her. How he started to look at her with fear instead of love. How she buried herself in work and power because it was easier than facing the pain of losing him. She remembered the night he betrayed her. Not just the physical details, but the emotional truth. He had loved her once, truly loved her. But he watched her transform into something he didn't recognize. And in his fear, in his twisted logic, he convinced himself that killing her was an act of love. The memories kept coming. 300 years of them. Every victory. Every loss. Every moment of loneliness that piled up like stones until she could barely breathe under their weight. The power returned too. It flooded through her veins like liquid fire. The magic that had once made her a queen, that had once made her nearly invincible, felt familiar and terrifying all at once.
Mora screamed.
The sound was raw, filled with centuries of pain. "Stop the ritual!" Elias shouted, trying to break through the circle. But the magic held him back. "We can't stop now," Seraphine called over the howling wind that had suddenly appeared. She must remember everything, or the memories will fracture her mind. More memories crashed over her. She remembered sitting on her throne, realizing she hadn't laughed in 50 years. She remembered ordering executions and feeling nothing. She remembered looking in the mirror and not recognizing the cold, hard woman staring back. She remembered becoming the very thing Kale feared, a queen of shadows with a heart of ice. But then, finally, she remembered Elias finding her on the beach. She remembered waking up in his lighthouse. She remembered learning to bake bread and laugh at her own mistakes. She remembered the first time he smiled at her, how it made her feel warm inside. She remembered falling in love as a mortal. Real, simple, human love. The kind of love that didn't want anything except to see the other person happy. The ritual ended. The lights faded. Mora collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. Elias broke through the circle immediately, gathering her into his arms.
Mora?
"Can you hear me? Are you okay?" She looked up at him with eyes that held 300 years of memories. Eyes that had seen kingdoms rise and fall. Eyes that had witnessed countless deaths and battles. But when she saw his face, so full of concern and love, she smiled. "I remember everything," she whispered. "I remember being Queen Morgana, cold and terrible and alone. And I remember being Mora, warm and loved and free." "Which one are you now?" Elias asked, his voice shaking. Mora touched his face gently. "Both. Neither. Someone new. I have all the power and knowledge of a queen, but I also have the heart of the woman who learned to love in a lighthouse." She stood, and as she did, her appearance changed. Her simple village clothes transformed into elegant robes of deep purple and silver. Her hair, which had been ordinary brown, now gleamed with threads of midnight. She looked like royalty, but her eyes, when she looked at Elias, were still soft with love. "Your Majesty," Seraphine said, kneeling again. "What are your orders?" Mora looked at the council, then at Elias, then out toward the sea where she had found peace. "We return to the Shadow Realm," she said, her voice ringing with command. "We face Kale, and we take back what was stolen." "And then?" Elias asked quietly. "And then," Mora said, taking his hand, "I change everything." The old queen would have sought revenge. But the woman you loved taught me something better. Justice, mercy, and the courage to build something new from the ashes of what was broken. The journey begins. They left at dawn. The village gathered to say goodbye, though most didn't understand where Mora was really going. Martha the baker pressed fresh bread into her hands. The children gave her shells and flowers. Elias packed a simple bag. When Mora asked him what he was doing, he looked at her like she was crazy. "You think I'm letting you face this alone?" he said. "I made a promise, remember? Whatever comes. I'm a lighthouse keeper. My job is to guide people through storms. This just happens to be a bigger storm than usual." Despite everything, Mora laughed. "You're just a human, Elias. Where I'm going, the danger." "I know," he interrupted. "But I also know you need someone to remind you who you are, who you chose to be. Let me be that person." She wanted to argue, to protect him, to keep him safe in this peaceful village. But she also knew he was right. She needed him, not as a queen needs a subject, but as a woman needs her heart. "Okay," she agreed. "But you stay close to me. Always. Wouldn't have it any other way," he smiled. The council opened a portal, a swirling gateway of purple and silver light. Through it, Mora could see the Shadow Realm. Her home, her prison, her kingdom. It looked different than she remembered. Darker, colder. She could feel the suffering of her people even from here. "Ready?" Seraphine asked. Mora looked at Elias one more time. He squeezed her hand, his simple human strength grounding her immortal power. "Ready," she said. They stepped through the portal together. The mortal lighthouse keeper and the immortal Shadow Queen, heading toward a confrontation that would determine the fate of an entire realm. Behind them, the portal closed. The village returned to its peaceful morning. The lighthouse stood silent on its cliff, waiting for its keepers to return. If they returned. Part 3. The Shadow Queen's Revenge and Redemption. Return to darkness. Stepping through the portal felt like walking into a nightmare. The Shadow Realm had changed drastically in the months since Morgana's fall. The sky hung heavy with dark clouds that never broke. The air tasted of ash and fear. They emerged in the outskirts of the capital city, hidden by Seraphine's cloaking spell. From their vantage point on a hill, Morgana could see her kingdom spread below. What she saw made her heart break. The once beautiful capital was now a fortress. Dark towers rose where gardens had bloomed. Armed guards patrolled every street. The people walked with their heads down, their shoulders hunched. Fear had replaced the cautious respect she once commanded. "By the stars," Morgana whispered. "What has he done?" "He's turned your kingdom into a prison," Seraphine said bitterly. "Anyone who speaks against him disappears. Families are torn apart. He's using your magic to fuel dark rituals, trying to gain even more power." Elias stood beside Morgana, his hand never leaving hers. She could feel him trembling slightly, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Can you feel your people's suffering?" "Yes," Morgana said quietly. Her restored powers gave her a connection to every soul in the realm. She could feel their fear, their desperation, their dying hope. It was overwhelming. "They're in so much pain." "Then let's end it," Elias said simply. A young council member named Theron approached. "Your Majesty, we have loyal forces waiting. Many of the royal guard never believed you were truly dead. They've been organizing a resistance. With your return, we can—"
No, Morgana interrupted. No armies.
"No more war. That's the old way. That's what created this mess in the first place." "But your Majesty," Theron protested. "Kale has fortified the palace. He has dark magic and loyal soldiers. How can we?" "I will go to him alone," Morgana declared. The council erupted in protests. Even Elias turned to her with disbelief. "That's suicide," Seraphine said flatly. "He's been absorbing your scattered magic for months. He may be as powerful as you now. You can't face him alone." "I won't be alone," Morgana said, looking at Elias. "He'll be with me. A human." Theron said incredulously. "What can a mortal do against?" He reminds me who I am. Morgana cut him off sharply. He reminds me why I'm doing this. That's more powerful than any magic. She turned to address the full council. I became a monster because I forgot what I was fighting for. I ruled from fear and isolation. If I return the same way with armies and violence, nothing will change. I'll just become what Kale feared. So what's your plan? Seraphine asked. Morgana smiled, but it wasn't the cold smile of a queen. It was the determined smile of a woman who had learned to love. I'm going to walk through the front door and challenge him. Just me, my power, and the truth. The Palace of Shadows. They approached the palace at sunset. Morgana had dismissed the council's protection spells. She wanted to be seen. She wanted everyone to know their queen had returned. The guards at the gate recognized her immediately. They fell to their knees, some crying, others frozen in shock.